The Dating Show, brought to you by olderdatingonline.com.
Thanks very much for the book, Debbie.
Oh, I'm glad you like it,
Yeah.
Rod. Enjoy
50
the read.
Shades of Grey.
Yes.
I'm going to read that.
Are
And
you
then I'm going to
really?
watch the film and then maybe read
Yes.
the other two.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to read it. As a journalist, I need to read it and also go and see the movie.
As a journalist, it is imperative.
Are you going to go and watch the film?
Well, I've read the trilogy, and yes, I'm going to go see the film.
Shall we go together?
Ooh, cringe.
Okay, all right. Now, we've got a relationship expert on the programme today, Manj Weerasekera. I think that's how we say his name. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks that way. Manj Weerasekera.
Yeah.
Weerasekera.
Okay, cool name. Anyway, our reporter, Molly Perella, asked him some questions.
The Dating Show, brought to you by olderdatingonline.com.
How can people cope with anxieties before a first date?
Before a first date, how people can really get themselves not anxious in any way is to prepare. Now, most people prepare, let's say, physically on how they look. Very few people actually prepare themselves mentally. So the first thing to do is to set an outcome for that first date. An outcome can be more or less split into two different areas. One is how they would like the date to go, and secondly, how they wish to come across. And they need to be as clear as possible. It's a bit like setting a goal.
Okay. How can people know that they found Mr. or Mrs. Right?
This is an interesting one because in my experience with working with people, most people leave that to wishful thinking. They just think their ideal person's going to turn up without actually giving much thought to what that ideal person actually looks like. So the first thing I do with my clients is to make sure that they design the type of person that they're looking for, actually design them. Most people spend more time planning something like a holiday or even planning what type of car they like that they wish to buy than they do looking at the type of person they're going to spend the rest of their life with. So the number one thing I would always say to people is design the type of person you are looking for to as much detail as possible, because then you're in a better position to know and notice when that person does turn up.
Okay, so could you explain a bit what you mean about designing a person?
So, for example, a lot of people will actually say, I prefer blondes or I prefer tall guys. What they don't do is take it to enough detail. So, for example, the looks, what their personality might be like, what they're into, what they enjoy doing, what their temperament's like, maybe their spirituality. So that's what I mean by making sure that they, in as much detail as possible, design that type of person.
Okay, and just moving on a little bit, what are the classic mistakes that divorced men make?
Well, this is my area of expertise, and I kind of narrow it down to generally 5 areas. And these are real big mistakes. Number one is they tend to jump in too soon. Guys get divorced or even separated. They'll just be out looking for their next partner. I mean, I worked with someone who I found out after he agreed to get divorced with his wife, 24 hours later was on dating sites registering himself back in. So they jump in too soon. The second area is this, and this is an interesting one because the divorce rate for second and third marriages is actually higher than the divorce rate for first marriages. It's about 33% higher, which a lot of people don't know. And I put a large area of that to the fact that divorced men end up attracting exactly the same woman again, just in a different body. And they don't realize they're doing it because they haven't really addressed some fundamental changes. Another area is, again, we just covered it earlier, which is they don't design their ideal partner. They just leave it to, again, a bit of wishful thinking. This is, again, an important one. So once they designed their ideal partner, what I get my clients to do is to say, what type of man would that type of woman be looking for? and for them to have a real good look in the mirror to review themselves and to make some changes possibly in certain areas. And then the last of the 5 is men are not very good at asking for help. So if they need to make some certain changes, either in their mindset, their self-image, their outward image, they're not very good looking for people who would help them. And there's some great experts out there, from image consultants to personal trainers to mindset coaches.
What kind of behaviours turn women off?
Wow. So how long have we got? The number one area I would say for guys to look at is women, and I'm being very general here, tend to get attracted to guys who are confident. So a lack of confidence can be a big turn-off. You know, maybe guys who show a little bit of insecurity, or they come across as a bit too clingy. They might be trying to text 10 times a day, or if a potential girlfriend's not called them at a time they said they would, they might be ringing them 3 or 4 times, that type of thing. Another turn-off for women is women don't like to be ignored. Women like to have the focus on them, and we're talking about real attention, you know, really being there. So a guy needs to be present and mindful when he's on a date. Another turn-off for women is guys who try to impress too much. You know, there may be a little bit of self-admiration going on that comes out, even bordering on narcissism. Poor grooming. Guys who maybe even haven't dated in a long time, maybe they've come out of a first marriage and they haven't dated in 20 years and they've kind of lost the touch. Maybe you might have to have a look at the way they groom themselves, etc. And you know, even simple things like being a bit too boring or a lack of manners, just depending on the woman themselves. But there are a number of areas that women would find a bit of a turn-off.
Okay, so how can people make themselves more confident?
That would be mindset. It's the ability to take a good look at yourself and to remind yourself of what's good about you. You know, even to make a list, just to say, you know, in the past when I was most successful at dating or the most successful at relationships, and to bring those good memories to the front of the mind. Because often what we do as human beings is we bury the good stuff and we tend to focus on the more negative stuff, which has an impact on our confidence and our certainty about ourselves, and hence that creates our own self-image. And that's what gets portrayed to the outside world. So it's to really remind yourself of what's great about you and to push your mind to remind yourself of that over and over again. It's like a conditioning process.
Could you explain why what's going on in our head could be killing our chances of a relationship, and what people can do about it?
Sure, and again, this is to do with the self-image. We basically have a deeper part of the mind, which psychologists and scientists have been going on for decades now, which is the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind, being the deeper part of the mind, is where we have our self-image. It's part of the autopilot. And how we feel about ourselves really dictates that. And what we all need to do is to make sure that self-image of ours is as healthy as possible. And again, the way to help yourself with that, or for anyone, is to keep reminding yourself of what the positive traits that you have. And that's quite a powerful thing, because how we classify our memories dictates really how we feel about ourselves. So it's really to make sure that what you're thinking at any one time is more positive than negative, which sounds obvious, but most people are unable to control that thinking process. And to make sure we're always moving towards what it is we want rather than what it is we don't want. So what tends to happen is what goes on in our heads is uncontrolled thinking. And what people need to do is to control it a little bit more by saying, this is the type of man or woman I want. This is what's great and what's good about me. Otherwise, you know, a lot of people have that little inner voice, and that chats away quite a bit. What that inner voice is like will give you an indication of the type of little mental programs that you run. And if it's not saying great things, that type of thing could actually manifest physically in the way you behave, and that's what could turn men or women off.
Wow, Debbie, he's probably one of the finest guests we've ever had on.
Absolutely.
Now, he's Manj, he's the Fresh Start guy. If you want to find out more information about him, you can actually go to his website, www.freshstartguy.com. He's also on Twitter under Fresh Start Guy. Check him out, because some of that information was mind-blowing, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely packed with useful things that are so important when you go on a date. He's used the big buzz phrase at the moment in all walks of life. Apparently, success is only guaranteed if you set goals for yourself, if you think really carefully what you want before you start out. And then that's the way you can know when you've been successful.
And also the bit he was talking about being confident. You know, that is crucial, isn't it? And you don't want to come across as needy and sort of clingy, as he said.
And thinking positively, always moving towards what you want. All these are amazing and great advice. And anyone who follows what he's just said there, set for a fantastic date and a fantastic relationship.
And I think we should get him back on.
Absolutely.
Get him back on. He's one of our top guests.
He is.
And I'm just going to take on board a little bit of what he said, be a
Yes.
bit more confident. So you and me, Friday night, we are going to go and see 50 Shades of Grey.
The Dating Show, brought to you by olderdatingonline.com.